discussion. So we're gonna get into the deck discussion, kind of what we do every show now. And Hunter is the big talk again. It's been the big talk, I feel like, for the last season and a half now. But a new Hunter's been establishing itself on the ladder for the last few weeks, or last 2 or 3 weeks, and it's more of a board control mid game type of Hunter, not so much the aggro, crazy burst type of Hunter that we've been seeing, what we saw last season. So there's two variances of it, and one being Life Coach's deck, and one being Kalento's or Gara's, if Reynad wants to get really typical, really technical on that.
And they worked on it together.
Yeah. So let me get this on here. Yeah. So I figured we would just talk about each one of them and kind of get your thoughts on what are the strengths of each one, the weaknesses of each one, and why they're just so powerful right now. So why don't I start with? We'll start with Life Coaches. Trump, why don't you start off? How much do you know about Life Coaches, Hunter deck?
I know secondhand about these decks because I play against them a lot.
Yeah.
So I suppose everyone knows why the Life Coach deck is good. The Kalento deck is slightly newer, so not everyone knows how good that is, but I think it's really good. But anyways, Life Coach's deck is not standard. I mean, things have changed really fast over the last week.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
When I say this is the standard, that wasn't the standard a month ago. This is the standard now, and you have the classic Eaglehorn Bow, which it's worth mentioning there's only one of now. Mm-hmm. And you have the traps. You play the bow, you hit the face, you play traps. They trigger the traps because they can't not trigger the traps. And then you don't have very many guys out, so the explosive trap is quite effective. Then when they have a lot of guys out, you play your combo wombo, you play the buzzard, you play the unleash, you play the doggy, or you play the hyena. Everything just goes in there. You draw a bunch of cards. Your hyena is like a, let's see, 10-5,
10-5, yeah,
whatever.
Exactly. Something crazy like that.
It's got some extra late game spice to it with the Houndmaster, which is a card that's always looked really good on paper to me, but hasn't seen play until about 1 to 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like 8-7 of stats for 4, and it's 4-3, and then buff. Wait, no, 6-5 of stats for 4, and that's still really good. And part of the buff is charge mode because you're buffing a beast, so that's really good. And you've got Savannah Highmane, which is one of the most efficient minions in the game, a 10-9, quote unquote, in for 6.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Yeah, and it's somewhat amazing that those two cards haven't been used until the last 2-ish weeks, but here they are now, and they're really good.
Okay, Reynad, what are your thoughts? And I mean, I guess again, I'd kind of agree that this is kind of the standard that people are building off of, and maybe even Kalenta and those guys built their decks off of. What do you think of this deck, and why do you think it's become so powerful?
It basically praised on the metagame a week ago. I'm just gonna start off by saying like the Life Coach deck is outdated, and it was flawed to begin with, but only by about 4 cards. It's like how most good decks start, is there's like a slightly flawed version that gets fixed.
Yeah.
The traps and the bow are like the mistake there. And I mean, Leroy's, you can make an argument on either way, but basically what it does is it exposes you to flare in the mirror match, and they're very situational. So if you replace them with Crocolisk, your opening hands look a lot better. Your Houndmasters are better. It's just like a much more streamlined deck. Stampede and Kodo is there to fill out the curve. Deadly Shot's there. I'm not sure why. I'd have to ask him, but that's like the one card that seems a little sketchy to me. But yeah, it's like for the most part, Kalento's deck is just a better version. But it's a strong deck because you kind of have to look back on the evolution of Hunter decks to kind of understand why. Like, at first, there were these face rush decks, and the control decks weren't really streamlined yet, so they were just getting burned out, and the aggro decks are getting burned out. And after that, the control decks kind of built themselves better to beat Hunter. And you started to see, like, those Hunter versus Warrior games where the Warrior would just hero power, like, 20 turns in a row and never play anything unless they could hero power as well. And basically, the Highmane adaptation kind of got around that. So like it let you kind of go over the top of decks to try to slow play you like that, and Yeah, I mean that's basically where we are right now. Is these druid decks that try to play like not extend quickly onto the board to not lose to Unleash the Hounds, end up losing to the High Main Houndmaster plan, and then
Hmm.
if they try to race you, they lose to the Unleash plan. And the the high legend rank ladder right now is in complete and utter turmoil. Like nobody knows
What?
what they're doing at all. Everyone's just frustrated. Like it's so frustrating because like
Wow.
the
Okay.
older hunter decks would always have the unleash combo, but this deck it doesn't have as much card draw. So like you have to basically flip a coin on am I going to play around unleash or am I going to play around like not unleash? And it's two completely different lines of play that you have to take, and it's just like a gamble. Like, do they have Buzzard Unleash? Okay, I lose if you make one line of play, but like if you make the other play and they don't have it, you end up losing. So it's weird. It's just nobody's really found a deck that like completely and utterly dominates it yet. But usually what I do when a deck like this comes along is I just go back like a season,
A few
go
seasons
back
ago
like
and pick one of those
yeah.
decks.
'Cause
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the old hunter deck just absolutely destroys this. I don't think it's remotely close. Same thing with like Burn Rogue. You can try that. High Ladder right now is so weird. There's a ton of people playing Tempo Rogue because um, that's like the consensus best deck against
Yeah.
this.
I think so. Just by the community, the rogue seems to be the somewhat the counter deck to this. Sap is pretty effective against things like Savannah High
Sometimes,
Main and that sort of thing.
yeah. Yeah, if they don't draw High Main, it's terrible though. So it's like really tough to. What if they draw Huffer? And I mean, it's like it's still good against Hyena and stuff. But yeah, I like I, don't know, I like Watcher Druid against this deck actually. I think it's actually like 65% against it. Or kind of like you could try like Strife Grove's old deck with Pyromancers and like Azure Drakes. Or those were two different decks, but both of those are good against this as well. But yeah,
Yeah,
nothing
that's
like
like an old version of Strife Rose deck with the
yeah,
Pyromancer.
nothing like
Yeah.
completely obliterates this 80-20 though, because any deck that would completely destroy it loses to the Unleash plan. That's like the thing. At first I turned to Zoo, which is positive against the deck, but I mean sometimes they draw to Unleash the Hounds and you can't win. So like it just
I
depends
see that.
on
I see. I was wondering about that today. I mean, I feel like Zoo is a huge favorite. I don't. Trump, what do you think of that matchup?
Well, right now I am playing a lot of Zoo, and I haven't seen Lente's deck. I mean, it's getting there, but 2 days ago I didn't see any of Calente's deck,
Hmm.
and then one day ago I started seeing some of Calente's deck. I suspect when I play today, there's going to be a lot of Calento style
Especially after
hunter decks
this
today.
episode.
Um,
Yeah.
how do I think it matches up? Like Reynad says, it's a lot about the Unleash the Hounds, and I think I've just started to accept I'm just going to play everything
Yeah.
and not play around Unleash the Hounds, and I think that's
yeah.
the winning move. Even though it sucks and you look really silly when they unleash you for five and then draw five cards and then draw more with the doggies and the Timberwolves and the hyenas, but you have to look silly because if you don't do it, you'll lose. So it's the matchup feels sort of dissatisfactory because you know that you're going to get wrecked if they have the card,
Yeah.
but you play it anyways because you get wrecked if you don't play it that way.
Yeah, and that's
Yep.
not a healthy matchup. Obviously, that's not a very fun one whenever you run into it. But more times than not, they don't have an unleash. Right? There's only two unleashes in that deck, so I would think that I think it would. I mean, the percentage would at least 60-40. Reynad, do you think? Zoo?
I think it's only about 60-40. Like
Okay.
Zoo it's only because like Zoo is favored if they don't like Zoo just wins if they don't draw Unleash. And if they draw one Unleash, Zoo is like a coin flip to win still.
Mm-hmm.
But like it it's like I don't know. It's so usually they draw one Unleash. It's such a close matchup when that happens. The second Unleash you're never beating. Two Unleash like Hunter wins automatically.
Yeah, I can see that.
Thing is if they buzzard combo the Unleash, they probably draw the second one. So it's like I don't know. It's really volatile matchup,
Yeah.
really frustrating. That's why a lot of the higher ranked players right now are very frustrated because honestly, in my opinion, they're just trying to play decks that the thing is the metagame was stagnant for like 2 months and they're just still trying to play that decks from that metagame to try to find the deck that beats this and they're just not going to.
Yeah.
So they need to something new needs to come along. And I mean I have some ideas to try, but yeah, the deck is just strong right now. I tried playing it myself and it's not definitely not whenever a deck like this comes along that's like ahead of the metagame a bit by a week and somebody always rides it to rank one and then you can't you can't imitate that because you're going to play against the mirror and you're going to play against the deck that counters it a lot.
That's right.
I played the 10 matches I played yesterday. I played against one zoo deck, 5 mirrors, and 4 tempo rogues. Like, that's absurd. Like, clearly that's not the same metagame that this deck played on. I mean, metagame's like self-correcting. That's the thing. So it'll.
That's what's cool about it, man. I mean, that's what's cool about Hearthstone is it changes. So it's so dynamic.
Exactly.
It changes every week, every 2 weeks, like you're saying. The life coach deck, I think, is better against Zoo overall, though, right? With the traps, the explosive trap is actually really great. Yeah. So
going half your match with the mirror, it's like you can't afford to get flared or you lose the game. So it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for folks that aren't familiar with, again, Kalento's these Hunters deck, what are the best matchups for it? Like, what does it just crush really badly that, used to be powerful? Trump.
Literally any deck from last month. Handlock, Druid, Warrior Control, anything. Like, old Rogue without Cold Bloods and stuff, Miracle Rogue.
Yeah.
It beats everything that's like 3 weeks old, probably above 60% of the time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Trump,
and
thoughts?
that's sort of a surprise because it used to be like, oh man, they're a hunter. I'm gonna bring this warrior deck. I'm going to crush them
That's right.
because I'm just gonna armor up a lot. But that's no longer the case with this Kalento type of hunter. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember.
it's just really solid across the board right now. And right now, it's the deck to beat. And not only do you want to beat this deck, you also want to beat Zoo. So like I've said, you want to the deck that will be the next big deck is going to be the deck that beats this deck and Zoo.
And Zoo. Wow, that's true.
And that's tough. Maybe impossible. But if you find it, then get to Legend 1 real fast.
Get to Legend 1 in
Yeah.
100 games. That's
I think it's honestly going to be as simple as changing like 4 cards in some older decks. I really think I think a lot of decks have a lot of like potential to just come in and clean up right now. There's a lot of things I want to try today, but yeah, there's like 3 or 4 that I think it'll just take some testing. It's only been a couple of days of this, so people are trying to adapt.
It's too early to make a assessment of it. It's just kind of cool. It's just cool to see some Crocs again because Crocs used to be like one of my favorite cards when the game, like the beta first came out. Just with the Hunter because that's all I played when it first came out, and it's cool to see a vanilla 2/3 back in the meta.
I forgot what class it was, but I got it to like level 58 or something, and I was so excited to see what golden card I got. I got Crocolisk, and I was so upset. But now they're beautiful. I play them and lose to the other guy's plebeian non-golden Crocolisk because I'm bad at drawing flare. And
Bad at drawing
I
player.
hate this game.
So
I'd
what do you
like
think-
to add that the River Crocolisk in gold mode looks absolutely glorious.
Yeah,
Really?
it's got like,
Seriously?
little sparkly stuff going in.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay. I'm gonna have to check that. I don't think I've seen that. Thoughts on Scavenging Hyena? Because I've had games where I've played against this deck, and then it's like Scavenging Hyena is just crazy because I don't have any silence, or I don't have, it's to the point where I can't remove it, with like a Soulfire or anything like that either. What do you think of that card and just how much power it brings to it? Trump?
It combos really well with Unleash. I'm not
Okay.
actually sure what to say.
Yeah, sure. Reynad?
It's big and stupid. I don't know. I don't like the card personally. I never liked it in Hunter because it seems really all in, and I can't play it turn 2. So like never know if I'm supposed to keep it or put it back, and like I don't know. I mean, it's like honestly I like Crocolisk because Crocolisk does what I want him to do. I play him turn 2 and he sits there,
Yeah.
and like Hyena, it's always I don't know what it is about the card. I just like never want to play it on any board state ever. But I mean, it's good enough. It's a bad buzzard. That's what it's there for. It's good against Zoo if you draw Unleash. So
I mean, you pretty much have to play it with Unleash, too, right? That card is not well.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can play it with like a Boar and Animal Companion, and maybe buff it once or twice, but for the most part, always goes with Unleash. Okay.
Speaking of cards to keep in your hand, like as a big Hunter noob, Reynad, do you think that Buzzard should be kept in hand?
it depends on the matchup. Like
Oh, the Mulligan.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. If you're playing against something like Warrior, where they're not gonna have a lot of dudes, or like Druid, where they usually play around the Buzzard combo, then I put it back. But if it's against something like Zoo or the Mirror, well, not in the Mirror match, I wouldn't keep it. I usually actually don't keep it. I guess if I'm against Zoo or Shaman, I'll keep it. decks that are gonna flood the board basically, decks that will lose to the Unleash combo. But a lot of times I put it back because at the higher ranks, people aggressively play around Unleash combo, so you like never draw more than 2 cards with it. Yeah, I don't know. It's like a card you kind of have to have in your deck, but I actually found myself putting it back more often than not. If I was playing in like ranks, 1 through like 10, though, I would keep it 100% of the time.
Okay. That's definitely good advice. And let's see, any other card that's worth discussing in this deck? Not really. I mean, you did mention Deadly Shot, right? Deadly Shot is an interesting choice, but I would assume it's
Yeah, it's
because
like
of some single giant taunt or some type of card that you can just remove easily.
I mean, it's a filler card that's good along the curve and has a lot of
Yeah.
applications. It's like the Deadly Shot, the Mukla, the Kodo are replaceable, and the Iron Beak Owl. But yeah, like since more people are gravitating towards Kalento's list, then like all of a sudden Flare is becoming bad again. Not bad, but like you can cut it for stuff if you want,
Yeah.
even though it's greedy. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just a
Well, at
lot of
least one.
interesting
You can
ways.
cut at least one, right? I mean, two of them's
Yeah,
pretty overkill.
then people start playing traps again, so you need more flares, and it's like
Right.
we'll see.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
tried a
speaking
lot of
of
different.
the
Yesterday,
Go ahead,
oh,
Trump.
oh,
just
yesterday
speaking
I
of the
was,
one ofs, I've recently found a love for
Oh.
putting one of a card in a deck just because a lot of the times when you draw two of the same card, you're like, I don't have any options, and sometimes both of the cards are bad, and just having the singletons, especially on Hunter, might be a good idea because of the tracking, and like every once in a while you hit that card you need, and
Yeah.
when you don't, you
and
just toss them away with tracking. So it's a slight synergy thing also.
it's true. There's a lot of different things to try. Yesterday I was on ladder and I tried playing the 3 mana 2/3 guy that makes a pig.
Three
Because the
mana.
pig is a beast. So I played like 2 of him and 2 Defender of Argus to enable
Oh,
him,
yeah.
sort of. So you'd have like 4 Houndmasters instead of 2. But that was like too
Yeah.
clunky. Because this deck doesn't act, it's not good enough at keeping creatures early on board. So like Defender wasn't working well.
Yeah.
And the pig thing wasn't as good as
The
Mukla in general.
the Razorfin. He's talking
Um,
about the Razorfin, guys.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was trying like the Raptor, the 3/2 for 2, just kind of like a bad Crocolisk. Because maybe you want a third one. I don't know what the right number of 2 drops is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I mean, there's a lot of things to try with the deck, a lot of ways to go with it.
Okay. Well, that's great. Yeah. So Hunter, guys. I mean, got to learn how to counter it or try to figure out a counter. Like Trump said, the magic formula right now is countering Zoo and countering this Hunter deck. You'll be in a great spot if you can do that. So, oh, it says Druid discussion. Oh crap. The hell. Uh-oh. I think I lost those guys. Hold on a second. What happened? Uh-oh. Let me see. Let me see what's going on here, guys. Let me go to a quick break. I'll be right back.